All right, so I'm going to show you, Omar, how you should do a CMA every time to identify the comps. And then I'm also going to show you how to produce a document that is pretty and you can print and bring to your client. I'll also tell you that I don't often do the document part of it, because what matters is, hey, I've looked at comps and this thing's overpriced or it's underpriced or whatever. Or I'm meeting with a seller. And if I meet with a seller, I actually do a process called the Color Picture CMA Tour, which is a different video on my YouTube channel, but you can watch that and we can cover that another time. But this is how you do it. So first thing I always do is I just copied the MLS number. I'm looking at the square footage. I'm looking at the year built, getting a sense of bed, bath. You know, is there anything unique about the property? Like, is it condo, townhome, etc.? This just looks like a typical detached single family, right? I also want to get a sense of the finish quality. So looks pretty original and pretty, you know, low quality materials, like no upgrades, but also when they built it with laminate and vinyl instead of tile or something better. And that's all right. We just want to get a sense of it so that when we look at the comps, we can see, are those comparable? Like, this is a plastic shower insert. That's not a marquee of a quality home. Interesting yard. It doesn't really have a yard because of the topography, it looks like. So now we're going to go look for comps around this home. And we're going to paste the MLS number. It defaults to a quarter mile. I've set mine up so that it defaults to choosing these statuses. You can do that too. You just save it, so it'll go straight there. Then we're going to do 20% larger and smaller. So this one's 1938. So you literally can just do it in your head, right? What's 1400 basically, right? And then we'll say 2400. So that's roughly 20% larger and smaller. Then we want to do 10 years older and newer. And I think it was 05, right? So that would be 1995 to 2015.
02, but yeah, same thing.
02? All right, thank you. Right, so now we're 10 years older and newer. We only have one house within a quarter mile, and it's the subject, right? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start increasing this. And what we're trying to do is get to where we have 4 to 6 comps. Now we have one more. What's interesting about the MLS is you have to tab from field to field to get this to refresh. Now there's 3. So we don't want to go beyond a mile, because that would only be appropriate if we were in a rural area. I mean, we can if we find it's really scarce. Comps are really scarce. But at this point, we only have 2 comps besides the subject. So before I go further out, I'm going to try a little bit larger and a little bit smaller. So we'll do an extra 300 square feet lower and an extra 300 square feet larger. And now we picked up one more house. And the way I want you to think about these filters is they're like levers, right? So we want to loosen a lever, see the impact, pull it back, loosen a different lever, see the impact before we loosen both levers. Does that make sense? Because by doing it this way, we're going to end up with the homes that are at least the closest in similarity, which is what we're really aiming for. So I'm going to start looking at these houses to see, are we realistic and are we in the same, you know, ballpark? I can already tell by price, these ones are going to probably be in better shape than ours, right? But if that's helpful, we can still use those for math. So this one's 2 years newer. And I just looked at the, I quickly glanced down here at style code because of the photo. When someone shoots a photo and deliberately leaves out one side of the house, you kind of worry that it's an attached single family, right? And this one's already nicer, we can tell, like hardwoods versus vinyl, tile versus laminate, stainless steel appliances, and so on. The floors are kind of hammered, but they're still manufactured hardwoods. Those are real hardwoods. That's interesting. So these are real hardwood floors, but these are manufactured hardwoods. These are cheaper than the ones they have in their laundry room. That probably just means, I mean, you could tell these people own dogs, right? Because look how beat up these floors are. And these floors probably replaced what was originally hardwoods when this home was built, the hardwoods that matched the bathroom, right? So we know this house is superior. This one's 2051, a little bit bigger, 1 year newer. It's got new flooring. And I say new because this flooring wasn't around in 2003. These pendant lights weren't around in 2003. So maybe the kitchen, no, it's got a laminate. That's funny. So this home was built kind of cheaply initially, but they've done some upgrades. But I would still consider this superior to the subject. I mean, it's just better maintained as well as having the new flooring. The tri-level upgraded. And the last one, this one sold for the most because I sorted these by price, right? So they should be getting gradually better and better. Quartz. First one with quartz, it's got a commercial 6-burner gas stove, stainless steel.
Lower ceilings, maybe. This feels like an 8 if the other ones were 9.
Could be, yeah. These are definitely 8.
Based
New
on the
quartz,
kitchen cabinets. Yeah.
yeah. New glass shower. They didn't, feature it, but you can see those are new. So the way I would approach this with a client is these comps give us a sense of what it would be worth if you updated this one. And this seller priced it there for that reason, right? Because it's about, I mean, for a good like quartz and new flooring and all that remodel, it's about $75 a square foot. So that would be 150,000 for this size home, right? Well, if I bought it for 6 and put 150 in it, it'd be worth 850 or more at that point, and I paid 750, right? So they picked this price for that reason. It's also a price that could cause multiple offers.
They do have an offer review date on Tuesday.
Okay. There you go. So the offer review is next week. Yeah. So step one, like we were talking about with Nia, is that does it fit your client? Like get your client to fall in love with it first. And then you have a conversation. I call it the offer strategy session, right? Let's first check it out and see if it even works for you. And if it does, then we'll have an offer strategy session. Make sense?
Yes.
So let's say you wanted to create a document CMA. And just FYI, if I felt like I needed more comps, I would maybe go out to 2 miles, but that's not ideal. And appraisers aren't going to use those, but look how big it got, right? So I'd be better served to play with these filters. I did one yesterday. I even went like this because we were trying to prove what's a home worth in this one little neighborhood, and there just hadn't been enough sales. So anyway, let's assume that these 3 comps are enough for us to make our case. You select all of the comps, and you just click on this CMA button right here. The CMA button is going to give you more documents and pages to sort of fill out the report. But you would create your contact, right? And then you would go tab by tab, right? So these are all the various things. Like, look how many different documents you could add to this. And just static is like educational pages, like why pricing is important, and activity versus timing, the effects of overpricing, those sorts of things. Up here, these are different ways to show the comps that you're going to use. This grouping over here is what I use for the color picture CMA tour. So I wouldn't use this group if I wanted to produce a document for my client. But I could tell you I would pick cover sheet with photo. So if you haven't put your photo yet into the MLS, make sure you do, because that's what's going to populate it. I would do min and max, chart of days on market, chart of list price, pricing recommendations. So that's where you're going to edit and say, I think it's worth X, right?
That's the one I had to use. I was looking for.
Right. And then I would use pro instead of brief. You can kind of tell which one of these are different versions of the same thing, right? So I would use pro just because it's got more detail. I would use one-line portrait because everything else is portrait. So making it landscape kind of frustrates people. I would include the photos report. So that gives your client images of all the comps. So you can see what we're talking about when we say it's, superior countertops or whatever. Summary of comps and full. Now, I don't often go in and do pricing adjustments to comps. I do it on BPOs when I'm doing a report for a bank, but not for a client, because in the client scenario, they're not even going to read the whole document anyway. And you're going to have a conversation about, hey, this one has nicer counters, so it's going to sell for more, probably 30 to 50 grand more. This one has a total gut job remodel on the kitchen. That's another 100 grand, whatever, right? You're just going to talk through it as you're having your offer strategy session. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then once you've gone through and selected all these, you click finish, and then you can view the document and print it, and it'll be a PDF. And mine's not going to look like what yours will, because I didn't use the cover. The cover is nice. It has a photo of the house and your picture and blah, blah, blah. All right, here it comes. Come on.
So you would prepare this maybe once they're ready to make an offer, or they need that little push to decide?
No, I actually don't prepare this ever. Remember what I said, I don't produce a document. The only time I produce a document like you're planning to do is if somebody opts in on a website where I commit to give them a CMA. And in it, I say, here's your CMA. If you'd like a more accurate one, I just need to come and see the house, because at that point I haven't seen the house, right? So in that scenario, I'll produce a document like you're going to do. But other than that, I don't do it. This is a great conversation because I know it can be a little confusing. When I'm talking to buyers, I tell them, you're never going to submit an offer without me doing a CMA first, right? And so that's why you're thinking of this. But here's what I do when I say that. I'm not doing a document. I'm doing, so let me get out of here. I got these comps, right? Then I click email and I type CMA on Blue Mount Lake Terrace house or whatever, right? So they can remember. And then I'll say, hi, Omar. I have completed the CMA for this home, and it appears to be priced aggressively because it's in inferior condition to the other homes in the area, which you will see. Look this over, and then let's have a conversation, you know, about what to offer. But I don't do it even before we go and look at it, right? Because normally clients are going to say, can we go look at these 4 houses? And I'm not doing CMAs on all 4. I'm just doing them on the ones they like. Does that make sense?
Yes, that was great. Thank you, Ed.
And then this email will actually have a link when it hits their inbox. It has a link to all the comps, so they can look at the photos nice and big, and that's easier to do than the PDF anyway.